Hey everyone, this is Eric with Nutrition by Eric. I hope you're doing well. Today I'd like to talk with you about what to eat. I talk with a lot of people as I travel. I've lived in a few states, maybe more than a few. And since I've gotten my health coaching certificate about 10 years ago, I always like to talk about health and nutrition with just about anybody. So if I'm waiting in line, with someone, or I'm at a hotel, like I'm at now, and I want to talk with the front desk because I'm waiting for someone else. And like today, someone mentioned they had a rash and they were thinking, oh, it must be an allergy. But we got to talking. One topic that comes up is knowing what to eat in general. Now, some people just eat whatever. Now, here in the U.S., you have so many options, and I would say it's a full spectrum. You could have fast food, you can have lots and lots of processed food. There's stuff in vending machines. And then there's, on the other end of the spectrum, there would be farmers markets. There's people growing organic food. There's people, there's organic grains, and then there's meats that are grown in a very wholesome way, maybe what you'd find in a farm from decades ago, and there still be on a farm, but there's just so many changes that have occurred. Some of the, I've learned from school, number one, and then also from documentaries and reading online and books, and encourage you. That's one thing I would like to tell people too. I would just encourage you to read or learn about different ways to eat. Okay. Now there's so many buzzwords. When I was in school, some of the 10 years ago, there was the Atkins diet, and it talked about macro. The founder of the school was into macrobiotics. Macrobiotics, not to be confused with macros. If you're a bodybuilder, you're watching your carbs and your fat and your protein. There was macrobiotics back in the 70s. Started in Japan. So there's many words. There's this diet, that, the South Beach diet, what's the new one, the Whole 30, whenever someone has an idea and they find a system, they write a book or they say it's a this or that, and every few months, every few years, you're gonna keto. You're gonna hear something. So right now, the hottest ones I know about are keto. Paleo was real hot a few years ago. But I'd like to share a kind of how to eat, and this is from what I've learned over many many years, about 2 decades, and what I've kind of done with people I've worked. Now, I work kind of informally, mostly family and friends. Sometimes I do have some more clients than others. Sometimes it's just sharing online. This is what I like to talk about. I like to share because it's so interesting because I have friends, some of them are vegan, some of them, one is raw. He just eats basically, basically just raw, which is uncooked fruit, maybe a few vegetables, mostly, there's many ways to do that. So to have a diet. And some people just eat whatever, whatever. They don't really think about it. They're just, whatever's around, or if they're at work and they have access to a lunch or a cafeteria at lunch, they just eat whatever's close to them. So, fine. But I'd like to just kind of make you think just a little bit about how do you feel in general? How's your health? Maybe how's your family's health? And it's a touchy thing because food is so integral to our lives. You know, So I'd like you to think about, like, because a lot of people argue, we're supposed to eat this way, we're supposed to eat that way, we're supposed to have meat, we're not supposed to have meat, we're supposed to cook, not cook, and so on. But I like to think about, I really think about, like, well, what is edible? What is edible versus not edible? A rock, sand, unless you have some kind of unique diet, I don't know about not edible, right? So yeah, you can eat just plants. You can eat maybe just fruit. You can eat cooked. You can eat raw. You can eat, there's the Mediterranean diet. There's people live in the blue zones. There's Weston Price. He's a very good person, I think, to study if you haven't heard of him already. Um, what I what I'd say is just kind of, look at your diet overall. What I like to say is just maybe just start with, are eating things that are really food. And this is from Michael Pollan, I believe. He wrote the book called The Omnivore's Dilemma. And I didn't even read that, but there's some good quotes. And I think he said he was famous for saying, eat foods, mostly plants, not that much, something like that. Now, there is some research, there's a lot of research that, there was a China study, there's some research that shows people that had slightly less food in their life, maybe not, I don't want to say poor or deprived, but they didn't have food always throughout their life, just their situation, and they ended up a little healthier. See, there is a state your body gets in. It can start kind of self-cleaning and self-healing when you take away food. That's you probably know is fasting. There's intermittent fasting, another one I forgot to mention. But you give the body a break from food, it can kind of clean up itself a little bit. It can start digesting food that's not always that didn't get a chance to fully digest, and that happens, in the body because if you it's so I just think the body is so fascinating. I mean, we're walking around with a real amazing marvel, and why people like to, no offense, people like to beautify. Some women like to, get their eyebrows done or their lips Botoxed or, get the wrinkles done. That's fine. Okay, you can understand that. And there's natural ways to do that, and there's not natural ways to do that. But the idea is that how much is going below the surface? I mean, how many people's have awareness of where their organs are and how well they're functioning? Yeah, maybe the doctor will tell you, but I just think it's so fascinating that maybe you'll feel your heartbeat, but you ever feel your liver, you feel your spleen, your gallbladder? No, they don't send out sensory impulses usually. Now, you may get an intuitive awareness, but I want to bring this all back to, if you're not sure how to eat, start with eating clean. Be conscientious of, is your food really food or not? Now, what I mean by that is, like, for example, Cheetos, no offense to Cheetos, or things, what corn puffs or whatever I'll call it. If you there's a documentary, so it's like a lot of these snacks are made from corn, and many of them are different snacks, but they all come from the same thing, from corn, and it's usually GMO corn, and GMO is, if you're not sure, it is a genetically modified organism. So there's something done so it's not natural, and this is a big thing in a lot of foods, in plants and fruit, and also in animals. There was GM fish, genetically modified salmon, that we're at such a great place in history where we can do so much. We have so much technology, but we're kind of tampering with things, kind of like the Frankenstein, tampering, and people aren't really aware, I think, of the effects. But I digress. But I think if you want to know how to eat well, just eat clean. Think of is your food really food? Like, can you look at the back and read the ingredients and know, okay, tomato, sour, you know, pickles or grapes or whatever, is it stuff that you could identify? And that's what Michael Pollan says. Is it something your grandparents could identify? Or is it does it sound like something from a chemistry class? Polysorbate 60, does it have numbers and, red dye number 3 and all this stuff? All these things are chemicals, and in general, they don't do very well in the body. So I say in general, try to eat clean. Think of like what you would consider wholesome. Like for breakfast, you could, if you have three meals a day. Let's say breakfast could be some fruit. It could be maybe a really healthy waffle, maybe a couple eggs, or it could just be fruit, or it could just be a combination. It could be, if you have dairy, maybe a little bit of sour cream on your waffle, or butter, and something that has a lot of fiber is something else you want to look for. So maybe not breakfast. Not a lot of people eat fiber for breakfast, but you could steam up some broccoli or have a smoothie. But fiber is very important for the body because it helps to help the waste leave. And a lot of people, I think, they act tough. Oh, I don't like to eat vegetables, but oh, okay. Well, How's your constipation? Do you have constipation? So you want to eat in a way that's good for your body. We think of I like to look, just like when you want to put the right fuel in your car, you wouldn't put a diesel fuel. You would put diesel in your gasoline tank, and we wouldn't put unleaded gasoline in your diesel tank, right? So find what works for you, and that brings me to just try different things. Maybe you want to try a week or a month of eating a certain way. Maybe you want to try intermittent fasting, or you want to try paleo or the Mediterranean diet. A lot of times it's a pain, and I know honestly sometimes I don't want to cook, or I don't want to I don't want to chop vegetables. So I also think it's kind of an art to find a way that's very very easy for you. Like I a lot of times buy these mixed greens. They're already cut up. I can literally grab them, stick them in a bowl, and I can put a little bit of salad dressing or some lemon on it, or I can just grab it out of the bowl, wash my hands, grab it out of the container, and just eat it as if I was eating like a chips or something. Because I know I'm going to get my greens. It's maybe simple, maybe primitive, but I will get my greens in. Um, but for your lunch and dinner, unless you're doing something more extreme, like raw or fruitarian, which is fine, but if not, for your lunch and dinner, I would recommend having a three-part harmony. Usually some kind of grain, like rice or something like that, and a lot of vegetables, maybe almost half the plate, it can be cooked or raw vegetables or both, and some kind of protein about a third of the plate. Maybe some kind of, whatever really works for you. It could be chicken, it could be beef, it could be pork, it could be fish. It could be beans, or it can mix it. I like the ideal is like you get a little bit of vegetarian, a little bit of meat. Sometimes that works for a lot of people. You know, so maybe you want half of your protein to be like black beans or pinto beans or lentils. And you might have a little bit of, like I said, the most common ones are chicken, beef, pork, or fish. And if you're going to get those, fish you want ideally free range or in a way that's very sustainable and clean. You'd have to research a little bit of that. For chicken, you want usually like it's hard to know. Free range would be good. If you're going to go for beef, it's a different terminology. Grass-fed is usually the best terminology. It means it's not crammed in a warehouse or in a crowded barn. So grass-fed, and the same if it was buffalo. So there's different terms that describe how well treated and how good the food was, and was there enough space, and they did not hopefully give them a lot of shots and antibiotics and all that stuff. So it does take some research, and you don't have to get it perfect. Sometimes you just have to make the best of it. And I also want to just add in doing a cleanse every so often, maybe every 3 months or 6 months or a year. Do a cleanse. What does that look like? That may mean you're just going to have smoothies for a couple of days, or you're just juicing, or you're just having water. Now, disclaimer, I'm a health coach, but you might have to seek a proper medical professional to get some more support on that, and maybe work with your doctor, or hopefully a holistic-minded doctor to give you some direction. But the body is not only a machine in a way to take in nutrients, but it's also meant to be. It's like I always think like a self-cleaning oven. It's a self-cleaning machine, organism, whatever you want to call it, and it can be. You can reverse at least some of the stuff that's maybe causing some of the problems in your life by looking into cleanses and detoxes and kind of flushes and things like that. So research, an easy ways, there's so many documentaries out there. You can get some wonderful documentaries. I think one of the Fast Food Nation, Super Size Me, and look up the Blue Zones. There's so much. There's so much. You can Netflix or Amazon Prime or just on YouTube. Fat, Sick, Nearly Dead, Crazy, Sexy Cancer is a couple that I've seen, and all very helpful. And if not that, read books, listen to audiobooks, podcasts, look on the web. Now, of course, you have to read a couple things and maybe put things with a grain of salt. Not everything is truthful out there, to be honest. sometimes things are skewed, and sometimes the research is incorrect. So you have to do a little research and maybe collaborate and check with others to get a to get a whole picture. Last thing I recommend, if you haven't already looked into Weston A. Price Foundation. That's I think this one's running a little long, so I would tell you more about him. But Weston, Weston, Weston A. Price. I think it's westonprice.org or westonaprice.org, something like that. Wonderful foundation for eating very well. And another term is ancestral food, primal food, things that like real food. No, if you didn't have the ability to add chemicals and genetically modified things and alter the food, what would you be left with? Wholesome, clean, unsprayed, non-pesticide-ridden food. That's what I recommend. All right, so this is it. This is Eric with Nutrition by Eric signing off. I hope you're doing well. Stay healthy, and until next time.